All right, Charles has returned. Huzzah! It's so nice to have a clean toilet, don't you agree? Well then, greetings and salutations. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Charles' not annual, but pretty consistent tier list making segment of the stream, wherein we will discuss bosses in Dark Souls 2. I just defeated Dark Souls 2 again, so we shall take this next hour to create a tier list of all of my favorite, most biased opinions on all of the bosses in the game. So, let's get to it, shall we? Cordial to the Saint Thomas B! Welcome back! Didn't have a port key to get back, had to whisper to a moth for an eagle, because no fireplaces or flue powder, and briefly forgot how to apparate. Also not recommended with shoulder muscle pain, so yeah. Welcome back, Cordial the Saint. I'm glad you could get here, no matter the difficulties along the way. So, we are doing a tier list. Dark Souls 2 bosses is what we're looking for. I'm not really finding it yet. Boss. Dark Souls 2 boss. Hey? Dark Souls 2 boss. Doesn't come up with one. Huh. Soulsborne bosses. But nobody has a Dark Souls 2 boss tier list made? Well, here we are. Scarlet person. Good. Okay, let's get the display on. Yes. Display capture. Zoop. Oh, that's Dark Souls 2. Boof. And then flap. And then we do the thing. We go like this. Ta-da! Welcome to the tier list, everyone. It begins. Again! So, here we have it. I believe these are put here in order of how fast you can get to them. So we begin with Last Giant. This is a hard to easy difficulty tier list, but we're going to change that. Favy. Second favies. Kinda good. Kinda bad. And just such bad. Alright, we're ready now. Alright, in Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, and in Original 2, you can meet the Lost Giant first. I like the Lost Giant. Not my favorite, but it is a good introductory boss. Something of a tutorial boss, because you will come up against giant creatures throughout the game. It's kinda good. It's kinda good. It may go up compared to some of these other ones, but I like the Lost Giant. Simple. Also, you can hack off its limbs to keep it from using its later limb-smacking ability, because it takes off its own limb if you don't take it off first and use it to smack you with, which is something that comes back in Bloodborne for the Amygdala, but that we'll wait for the Bloodborne boss tier list to talk about that. That's pretty cool, and you can do that with many other bosses, in fact, especially monstrous creatures, but you don't really know that unless you just happen to do it. Next, we have Pursuer. I don't really have much to say about the Last Giant, I just realized. It's just, he has, like, 3 or 4 attacks in his first phase. Second phase, you get him down to, like, sub 50%. He pulls off his arm and smacks you with that, and then he has 4 different attacks for that. So, very slim number of attacks, and he stomps a lot. So, kind of boring, and very low health, but good to get you into it. Pursuer. I like him better. He is kind of one of my favies now. Second favy, I would say, in the second slot, because he was really hard to start with. Like, whenever you enter this game, and this is like the first boss you come across, he has way more health than the last giant. And he has more moves. But you don't realize just how open he is until you have truly exhausted all of his moves and learn how to roll them. Because you can roll through every single one of his moves. You can't really shield very well against him, and that's the unfortunate thing. He does, I think, magic damage, and has a pretty mean grab, and can cover any distance in a straight line. He's not so good at side-to-side attacks, so it's very easy to get around him and hit him in the back, which is the point of just about every boss, is to teach you how to hit them in the back. So, Vampkin! Vampkin! Welcome back, Vampkin. Good to see you here. Hope you're doing okay, sweetheart. I saw some of your tweets about feeling unwell. Thank you, Vampkin, so much. I appreciate you coming and saying that. I am doing okie dokie. Not terribly, but I am alright. Not great either. Still dealing with some sicknesses, but hanging in there by the grace of God. I hope you've been well. Long time no speak. Very good to see you. Blessings upon thee, Vampkin. Alright, we're doing a Dark Souls 2 tier list, so let us continue. I will put this up on YouTube, by the by. Say hello, chat. Say hello, YouTube. To chat. Everyone, say hi to one another. Next is Dragon Rider. This is kind of bad. Like, he shows up in Hyde's Tower of Flame, and he can also be your first boss fight, but he has less attacks than the last giant. He has more health, does more damage, but not as good. Boring, but you can indeed get him, like, if you don't unlock any of the levers and go into his boss arena early. Without doing that, you can kite him off the edge of the platform into the water below. And that's kind of fun to do, if you can get it right. It's very hard to get it done, but it's a very cheesy way to deal with him, and you come across him like 10 more times throughout the game as both another double boss fight as well as a regular enemy throughout the game. So I'm not happy about the Dragon Rider. He has too much health. He does too much damage for how slow he is. But a lot of bosses and enemies are like that in this game, so just get used to it, I guess. And he has a 100% physical block shield, which is annoying. Doing good? You're also doing okie dokie? I'm glad to hear that, Vampkin. Praise the Lord! Praise the Lord for that. May it continue. May you become excellent. Amen. Flexile Sentry. Flexile Sentry is fine. It's an interesting design, for sure. Having swords in front and behind. Twins. Siamese twins. Facing opposite directions, and he seems to be some kind of lizard person. With, like, lizard skin. I have no idea what the story about this creature is. I'm sure there is lore behind it, but I have not looked into it. But the one side is the more straightforward mace attack. The other side is dual scimitars. So, depending on which direction you come at him from, he has a different moveset, which is fun, but he also has a very limited moveset and low health. So, again, kind of boring, but his design sets him apart. He's pretty neat looking. Also has that weird quality that a lot of Dark Souls 2 bosses have, that's like, why did they make him like this? This is just weird. And I appreciate that. It's unique, and uniqueness is value. No, you're so sweet, Vampkin. Old Dragon Slayer. I can't say this is my favy, but He's an oldie and a goodie. It's basically just Ornstein again. He has all of his attacks, and he's just reused with a darker color palette. What more is there to say? It uses dark damage, though, which is an interesting bit of lore. He succumbed to the dark, even as an Orlando sunk into the sea and was then replaced. Its title was then replaced with Hyde's Tower of Flame. That's the lore. It's fun. It's also kind of a tutorial boss, but it is much harder than Flexile Sentry, Last Giant, or Dragon Rider. I'm not sure if it's harder or easier than... It's harder than Pursuer, I would say. For sure. Maybe. I don't know. It depends on your build, I guess. Just as difficulty varies with every build. Alright, 5 times Belfry Gargoyles. Bad DS1 copy. They put that in the title? How dare you? How dare you? I like this one. It's a lot. It's a lot. There aren't technically 5 gargoyles you have to fight. No. If you don't do very much damage, the longer you wait, or the longer it takes for you to kill a gargoyle, up to 8 gargoyles will spawn. So, you know, it's the shared health pool thing, reused again. And the more you kill them, the faster you kill them, the less show up. So you can basically kill them before they get to 5, which is interesting. And the fact that they reused the gargoyles, it's not a bad copy if it's a different boss with different moves, which it is. They are making a reference to gargoyles from Dark Souls 1, and I appreciate that. Like, it's cool to remake a boss, especially since it's optional. You don't, like, I never found this on my first playthrough, and it was quite fascinating when I did, because it is a harder boss fight than the original Belfry Gargoyles, and I like it that they did that. It's fun. It's also Dark Souls 2 in a nutshell, because it's basically just Dark Souls 1, but slower and with more enemies. That's what Dark Souls 2 is. And you can get through it pretty easily if you level up yourself quite well, just like the Gargoyles boss fight. So, I prefer it to these 3, even though I think these 3 have better designs. These gargoyles are not as imposing or scary as the original gargoyles. They're smaller, but they do have a very interesting style to them. Like they're made of metal. Which is a change, quite a change. And it's in the rain, which is exciting in a storm. It's fun. And you get led to them by seeing them fly around the tower, which is also cool. Covetous Demon, is it's Jabba the Hutt. Yeah. Need I say more? He has a lot of interesting moves, though. Like, he can roll over on you, he can punch you, he can eat you, literally eat you, and spit you out. He has a few more, but he's so easy to kill, even in New Game Plus, that you generally will never see them. As long as you stick to his back and or sides and make sure to run away from his rolling attack, you're fine. Says Ryan IDC. He's a pretty bad boss, I must say. He's not very good, and he's ugly. I like his wiggly tail, though. That probably moves it up from Jusut bad. Executioner's Chariot, though, is just bad. There is nothing good about this fight. I hate it so much. And they revivified it in Elden Ring. But in every hero's grave. It's horrible. Welcome back, by the way, Ryan. Glad to see you here. So, yeah, having to run through a giant, like, Colosseum ring of a road filled with resurrecting skeletons that get necromanced back to life if you don't kill the necromancer fast enough. All the while, the Executioner's Chariot is going around the circuit and can one-shot you if you don't have enough health, it's horrible. And then you have to run back through the gauntlet of dark damage-dealing baddies. It's horrible. It's horribly designed. It is pretty cool that you have to get to the lever and then close the gate that causes him to run into it to unseat the rider. And then you have to just deal with the horses. And it's a neat reveal that it's not the rider that you have to contend with, it's the horses. It's the actual chariot that is the boss. That's cool, but not cool enough to warrant the horrible gameplay mechanics. And when you fight it, it's just a horse. Like, it attacks you in the front, it charges you, attacks you in the back, and shoots dark damage at you. Pretty darn boring once you actually get to the fight part of it. And by that time, you're already tired from having to kill all those necromancers. It's awful, man. It is awful. It's just the worst. I'd say this is the worst boss of this game, in my humble opinion. But we'll get to the rest, and I may amend that statement. We'll see. Lost Sinner! This is a goodie. This may be going into one of my favies. Lost Sinner is fun. I had some difficulty with it, with her, because everyone has agreed that it's a her based on very slim lore indications, but I will confess, it does seem to point that direction. Also, the Bed of Chaos's like little parasite that you kill to defeat the Bed of Chaos in Dark Souls 1, that asset is reused as the creature that crawls into its eye. So it may indeed, well actually no, it has the Bed of Chaos soul in it as well. So this is the Bed of Chaos, Lord Soul boss. Has nothing to do with the gameplay, thankfully. It's just a long swordsman, or two-handed swordsman, that does a lot of jumping, very fast, does a lot of thrusting attacks, and if you roll right and hit it when there are openings, you will do well. It's also pretty cool that you can light up the place to increase the range of your lock-on with her, so that's cool. It also makes... it allows you to have a different experience if you don't light the fires on either side of the boss arena, and if you do. It's obviously harder if you don't. You can hardly see anything and can barely lock onto her, but it also makes it a lot scarier and a lot more atmospheric. And the lore behind her is very interesting, and the ground is filled with runes scrawled by her in her imprisonment. So, very interesting lore, very interesting, well, not very interesting boss fight, but interesting arena, and enjoyable boss fight. It's a faster one. In a game filled with slowness, that's one of the more fast bosses. And those tend to be my favorites. Ruin Sentinels. I'm not sure how I feel about this. I'll stick it in kinda good for now, because it's just 3 Ruin Sentinels. I was shocked at this point when I got to it in the first playthrough, because I was like, they wouldn't just have us fight 3 bosses as the second boss, and yes, they will, if you get there as the second boss, because you can do that. You can even get it as the first boss, I guess, if you miss the Pursuer, and you miss the Lost Giant, and you miss the Flexile Sentry, and Old Dragon Slayer and Dragon Rider. You can just get to Ruin Sentinels as your first fight, and that is cruel. Because they are pretty high HP and high damage, and have tons of range, and can throw their shields at you. So it's hard. It is very hard. It's much better of a fight than, I think, Flexile Sentries, but not as iconic as Old Dragon Slayer. Their armor is pretty cool, though, if you can get it. Very thin, very giraffe-like. If you want to be that, you can. Shiny armor, though. It is shiny, and shows up in the other Souls games. Alright. Well, Dark Souls 3. The other Souls game. 3 Skeleton Lords! Oh, I love these! This is one of my favies. It has no objective reason. It's literally just 3 3 pyromancers with scythes, and an army of skeletons and bone wheels. All the different types of skeletons that can be in the game show up in this boss fight once you've killed at least one of them. Like, the more you kill of them, the more of the army shows up. And there's a certain number of skeletons you have to kill. It's like, just kill the whole army and then the boss is dead. And I enjoy that. I don't know why. Maybe something is wrong with me. But I enjoy the cosplaying Jason and the Argonauts experience. That's fun. It's really fun. Cleaving through armies of evil skeleton people is the reason why I like Dark Souls 2. I got dinner delivered to me. Thank you, Pappy. Alright, yeah. So, I enjoy Skeleton Lords. Next is Mytha the Baneful Queen. I feel like her lore makes no sense and has nothing to do with her... what's the word? Not mer person. She's not a mer... Her Gorgon appearance. Not one of my favorites. But good. Good. I think she stands up there with Pursuer. If she didn't... Well, okay. She's again another gimmicky boss. If she has the poison in the arena, she heals off of the poison, and you take damage. Constantly. So that makes it really tense and difficult. But if you take off the poison, she becomes a very bog-standard mage caster / ranged attacker creature. She doesn't cast a whole lot. Every once in a while she can do her, scream with her head. But very low health, generally low damage, because I think they took the poison into account and made her a little easier than she could otherwise be. But I think it's a cool fight. To actually fight a Gorgon in Dark Souls is something I think the series needed. More Greco-Roman mythological creatures, please! I'm happy with that. Cool fight. Not great, but I guess it's one of my second favies. Schmelter Demon! Ooh, is this just bad? Or kinda bad? Oh, it's kinda bad. It's kinda bad. It's a very basic boss fight. Very small number of attacks. Ridiculously high damage output. And constant damage over time if you're in melee range. It's like, screw you, melee people. It's a big screw you to all melee. And I hate it. I hate that. It's kind of fun to beat it, to kill it, to get rid of it. But, yeah, I like the Covetous Demon more than the Smelter Demon. That's all I have to say with that. And the blue Smelter Demon, does he show up too? Oh, he does! Okay. He's in there too. I might as well just put him in here as well. Magic Smelter Demon. At least it's a different color, right? It's pretty. The blue Smelter Demon is pretty. At least you can get their armor. Play as a Smelter Demon cosplayer. That's something. But yeah, kind of hateful bosses. Not as annoying as Executioner Chariot, but just annoying. Still. Old Iron King. I like this boss a lot. I do. It also has the problem of the difficulty is the arena, not the boss. If you had an arena of flat land with nothing to fall off of, this would be a stupidly easy boss. As it is, you just have to stay away from the lava and hit it when his hands are down. And yeah. But it's a gimmick boss that is also incredibly imposing, has great, visuals. You get to fight the Balrog, and magic does good damage to him. So you can really do a good DS2 Mage Gandalf versus a Balrog fight, and that's fun. But yeah, like Mytha the Baneful Queen. You actually play the game. You roll around, you dodge, you attack, and that's that's what you do. But with Old Iron King, you don't do much of that. You dodge, but that's about it. And you stay away from lava and attack his hands. Uninspired, I would say. But yeah, the arena and the visuals are amazing. It's a spectacle boss. I enjoy the spectacle bosses in Souls games, even if they have poor gameplay mechanics. Royal Rat Vanguard. I like these guys, but they're kinda bad. I'd put them at the top of kinda bad. It's just a lot of rats, and then a rat with a mohawk shows up at 50% health. Or no, after you kill a certain number of... Or maybe it's time-based. I actually don't know when the big rat shows up. But there's only a limited number of rats that can spawn in this room filled with rat statues. And you kill some rats. Once you kill the main rat, they all go away. Not very challenging, although I will confess I have died to the Royal Rat Vanguard more than once. More than once. The bleed gets to you. I mean, I like rats as much as the next guy, but no. It's kind of stupid. Like, it would have been cool if it were just a challenge. Like, this room is filled with rats. That'd be fine. It didn't have to have a boss name. You love the Pursuer, Corey Watch? I do too. It's very fun to fight the Pursuer. I'm kind of glad that in Scholar of the First Sin they force you to fight it again and again as like a treasure creature, like a crystal lizard. That's actually very fun for me, because then you get to perfect your battle tactics against him. And by the end, I was one-shotting these guys. So, yeah, Pursuer is very cool. Next is the Sorceress Najka. I don't know where to put this. I don't much like Najka. She has a super low health bar, does pretty good damage, does some magic casts, and her tail whip does amazing damage. But also there is a cool thing in that one of the items in the room, I think it's a, I can't remember what it is. Is it a fragrant branch of yore? No, it's nothing that good. One of the items in the room is in a branch, and if you kite her while she's underground, and she jumps up from the ground under the tree, it will cause the item to fall, and then you can get the item. That's interesting. They didn't do that much more with any other boss, but you can do it with Najka. And if you stand on the middle platform, she cannot go under you to hit you like that. Which is, you know, it's one of those things. If you know, you know, you know? But it's still kind of like, oh, you have to stand on the platform? It's making too much of the arena. Whereas I like straight-up fights. Not, okay, when she goes underground, then you stand on the platform, and then when she comes back up, you get off the platform, and then, you know, it's kind of stupid. Just let it be a straight-up fight. Fight me like a man, woman! But yeah, I don't like her. You can cut off her tails, which means she cannot hit you with them anymore. But both in New Game and New Game Plus, you can kill her far faster than you can cut off her tails. It's just easier to kill her than to do that, so... But pretty much a disappointment, but still, it has some interesting stuff to it, you know? She can do the... She can do the... She can do the... And then she can do the... So she actually has a lot of movesets. And that's pretty cool. I wouldn't say she's kind of bad, though. Yeah, pew pew. Pew! Next up is the Rotten. I like the Rotten, but it's a very boring boss fight. He has 1 AoE and 2 melee attacks. For a grand total of 3 or 4 attacks. It's pathetic. But I do like him. He's fun to kill. You go fight him, and you kill him, and it's like, yay! He also has, I think, the soul of Nito, right? And it makes sense, because he's just an amalgamation of human bodies that are apparently still alive, somewhat like the bodies inside of Praetor Rykard. But you can also hack off his limbs, and unlike Najka, if you hack off his limbs, he's still alive. Like, he still has some life left. And if you hack off the one with the butcher knife in it, he can't hit you with that anymore. Which means he effectively has 2 attacks that he can hit you with. So, it's really sad, really. Because unless you fight him as your first fight, he is going to be easy. Melee or ranged. So, I mean, it is kinda bad, but I like it. I like it. So I'm not putting it in kinda bad. 2 times, Dragon Riders. This is also kinda bad, but I prefer it to the normal Dragon Rider. I like it when they reuse bosses in doubles. It's more fun that way. Instead of just reusing the boss, but changing the damage type. That is so stupid, that is so lazy, so boring. Ugh. So, yeah, not much more to say about these guys, although the archer of the group, of the 2 Dragon Riders, does have less health and armor. So, that helps. Next is Freya, the Duke's... That's not Freya. That's the Duke's dear Freya. I guess it is Freya. I thought that... Anyway. The Duke's dear Freya. I actually love this boss fight. This is another one of my favies. Because I hate spiders. And I love killing it. And I think it's a very well-designed creature. It's basically the skeleton of the armor spider from Demon Souls, but with an extra head at the back. Problem is, it does do rust damage, meaning it breaks your weapons if it spits on you, and it has, like, steel skin, so the more you hit it, the more damage is done to your weapon and armor's durability. And the more it hits you, the more durability damage it does. So, you do need to bring in repair powder, which complicates things, but it's a very fun fight. And it does also bring in spider ads, but if you bring in multiple people, it's an epic raid boss style fight, because you can be fighting on either side of them, and they'll both be attacking you, and then the other spiders come out, and then you have to kind of break up and fight those spiders, and then fight the main body again. It's pretty cool. And you can behead it. If you focus on one head too much, you can literally break off one of the heads, and it'll go rolling like a ball, which is neat. You can't bowl with it, though, which is sad. But the problem with that, you can't hit and do damage to the boss on that side anymore. So if you do too much damage at a time, you can technically break off both heads and not be able to damage it anymore. And we'll just have to restart, as far as I've read, which is crazy. I've never done that before. I have no idea how much damage you would have to do that. But either way. Everything out to get your beautiful kitchen knife with this rust. Yes. Kitchen knife rust. Too much. Too much rust. I hate the durability thing. It is diputs. That is stupid backwards. Prowling Magus and the Congregation. Oh! This is the meme boss. As if there weren't already too many others. Yeah, this is just bad. It's better than Executioner Chariot because it's not annoying. Actually, I like this better than the Smelter Demon. Yeah, it's more fun than any of these other ones. You just run in, kill a bunch of zombies, and you win! Huzzah! Each of these guys have like 3 attacks at most. I think there are 2 priests, 1 dark mage, and like 5 zombies in the room. And these guys can heal them, and this guy shoots at you. So, it's very boring, and it's just a bunch of normal enemies in a room. Just like Royal Rat Vanguard. But it's really hilarious, because you've been fighting all of these different other bosses that are so hard, and then you come into this, and it's like, Prowling Magus and the Congregation, and the music swells, and it's just like, whoosh, whoosh, They're dead! Huzzah! Victory! What? Are you joking? Maybe it was a joke, I don't know. But if we didn't have the Prowling Magus and the Congregation, we would not have the beautiful fight in Dark Souls 3 known as the Deacons of the Deep. So, be thankful for that, if you like the Deacons. Royal Rat Authority. This is a fun one. I like this one. It's not one of my favies, and he does poison you. But I like large creature fights. It's like another Sif, almost. And I have no idea where you get off calling this thing a rat. It's a wolf, you idiots. Sorry, chat, not you. But yeah, I kind of like it. You do have to kill the rats quickly, but you can really level up and do other things before you fight this to make this much easier. I remember fighting this pretty early on and getting wrecked just by the dogs, and then the giant rat dog would jump down on me and one-shot me. So, don't do this early on. It can be hard, but it doesn't have to be. Demon of Song. I don't like the Demon of Song.
Let's go, amigo.
Let's go. Thank you, Mr. Quacks123. Welcome back to Charles Chill Channel. Hi, friend.
Hi.
We're doing a tier list. As you can see, Dark Souls 2 bosses. It goes well, Mr. Quacks. I'm feeling okay today. Not terrible. Thank God. I can stream. Hooray. Hello, mate. So now we're at the Demon of Song, and yeah, you cannot damage it unless its face is out. And if its face is out, it's going to attack you with its giant hands. Indeed, in a lot of the same way as the Curse-Rotted Greatwood does in Dark Souls 3. I never really noticed the similarity until today, but there you have it. Maybe this is what the Curse-Rotted Greatwood looks like inside. Who knows? But, it's kind of bad. It's kind of bad. I don't like it. I like enemies that I can hit. And it hops around, gets away from you, it has really long attacks. It's usually pretty easy to get down, but you just have to take no damage. And it has like a body slam attack that covers like the whole room that can one-shot you. So, yeah, not my favorite. It's a really weird and interesting design, but the Demon of Song. I guess it's because there are frogs that sound like they're singing, like the coquilles. Maybe? Yeah? I guess that makes sense, to a degree. It's just a weird design. I don't get it. Oh! The Looking Glass Knight. This is, without doubt, my favorite boss of Dark Souls 2. He's giant, he's imposing, he's a normal boss, he has a 100% blocking shield, blocks everything, and he does actually, if you don't kill him fast enough, bring out some NPCs to fight you through his mirror, which is why he has it. Sadly, you can't do that when you get his mirror, but it's a very cool gimmick that does make the boss a little bit harder. He has some simple side-to-side, some, downward slashes. He has lightning abilities, and he can shoot lightning across the ground in the rain, which increases lightning damage. So, cool in concept and in visuals, and fun to fight, but he just has way too little health, and way too little damage. On New Game Plus 3, he was a cinch. I don't know why. He's so easy when he's like one of the king's, like, greatest guardsmen. And he's a main boss. You have to fight this guy in order to beat the game. But I love his fit. Some of the best armor in Souls, in my opinion. And it's so shiny. But the Mirror Knight, the King's Mirror shield is not good. Now, lightning damage feels impossible to avoid. That's true, but it isn't. You just have to be in the right place, right? Because it fans out like this, And if you roll, like it starts like this and goes, If you roll and get away from him, you can get in between them. I don't know if... Yeah. I get hit by it a lot, but, you know, a better player than I can definitely get away from those. I actually beat him one time, and he didn't do that attack once. So, there is some randomness to his attacks. But it's also kind of sad, because that means you may not be able to see his whole moveset. Alrighty then. Mirror Knight, Looking Glass Knight. Technically it's the Looking Glass Knight. It's too long. Mirror Knight. For me. All my homies say Mirror Knight. Velstadt is next. He's a good boss. He is definitely a good boss. He has super wide and long arcing attacks, dark damage, ranged attacks, and an AoE. But he's not very interesting to fight. It's just get behind him and hit him. Which, you know, that's every boss, but I feel like there should be something. He does remind me of Artorias a little bit. And, obviously, he's a reference to all the paladins of, like, Dark Souls 1 and Demon Souls. But, even up to the headdress, the triangle headdress. He's probably a lot more integral to the lore than people know. Yeah. But, I didn't find him as fun as these second favies, but he is among my favies, for sure. The Giant Lord. Again, I like this guy, but he's basically the last giant, but with a sword. And in a cramped space, which makes it a worse fight. And you can die so easily from fireballs raining down from the sea, and from giants in the way, and from the rolling head. So, I kinda hate the rest of that. Mr. Quacks learned to power stance a couple of days ago. Congratulations, my good Mr. Quacks. Time to get that power stance build going. Bravo. I did some power stancing with Thorned Greatswords this last playthrough. My brain is slowing. Let's get this done. Guardian Dragon. I like the Guardian Dragon. He's fun. He's a boss fight. He's a dragon. Yep. There's not much more to say. Go for the toes. I mean, you go for the head if you can. He's actually a really easy fight if you just run away from the fire. When he goes up into the air, you run away, and then go back into him and attack, and that's the end of the... That's the end. That's all you need to know. But they're fun. I like fighting all the Guardian Dragons. There are several of them in the Dragon Eyrie, or Eyrie, however you say that. And they're always fun to kill, for me anyway. That's why I like the Elden Ring dragons as well. Last Giant was easy. Yeah. Quite. Vendrick, though. This is an interesting one. I wouldn't say he's a favorite. He is challenging, even though he's incredibly slow, because his damage output is insane. And if you don't have the 5 giant memories, giant souls, he has, like, so much health and defense. So, it's cool lore-wise, because you get to fight the Hollowed King, and he's even strong in his hollowed form, but, I don't know where to put this guy. Definitely not a favy. He's kinda good, I guess. Best of kinda good. Sure. We'll say that. Moving on, then. I kinda think it's bogus that you have to do this whole song and dance to get the rest of the dreams sorted, get the giant souls in order to fight him at all competently. But it is an interesting, like, fetch quest, I guess, in a game that has very few quests. I mean, I haven't done that many, so maybe I'm not aware of how many quest lines there are. What are the bosses in Lost Bastille? The Ruin Sentinels, there are multiple pursuers in the Lost Bastille. And then there is the Belfry Gargoyles and Lost Sinner. Boop, 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 boop. I like the Ruined Sentinels and the Lost Sinner and the Pursuer, but the Belfry Gargoyles kind of fall behind for me. Well, I do like them. Never mind. I'm keeping this the way it is. I do like it. It's fun. If you have good damage. If you don't, it's a nightmare. Oh, Aldia. Aldia. I hate Aldia. He's okay. But I hate him. He's a gimmick boss after a gimmick boss. You have to wait in order to do damage to him. And it sucketh. He's better than... Is he better than Dragon Rider? This is actually tough. He's better than Smelter Demon and Blue Smelter Demon. Because you can get in range and melee him to death. He lets you do it. He burns himself out, and then you can fight him. Gargoyles? They gave me a fright occasionally. Yes, they are frightful. But the fire is so delightful. Ancient Dragon. This is the longest fight in the game, if you don't count Zero Giant Soul Vendrick. Pretty tough. The best of kinda bad. He has the forward-facing fire attack. He has attack with his hands. He has attack with his feet. Tail whip. And jumping fire pillar, which can reach to almost the edge of the arena, and you have to run away from in order to not get hit by. Which is really bogus. But if you follow his tail and run towards his tail, most of the fire goes outward from him, forward, not backward behind him. So if you can get behind him quickly, before he starts up the fire attack, then you can get away from it. But man, he has a lot of health and is very tedious, so I'm not a fan of the Ancient Dragon fight. I love dragon fights, but this one is just boring. Oh my gosh. The next one is Dark Lurker. Oh, I hate the run-up to Dark Lurker. But this is one of the sweatier bosses in the game. Is he one of my favies? I really dislike... I have some bad memories of going through those abyssal holes as a mage. Because most things that do dark damage do not take very much magic damage. But this last time where I used lightning damage, it was much easier. So, I can see the merits of Dark Lurker now. It's a much better fight than Myth of the Baneful Queen, or Velstadt, or Pursuer, or Lost Sinner. I think I'll put it at second favies, because this last time when I fought it, I had to get in the zone. I had to, do 20,000 actions per minute in order to... I had to use every neuron in my brain to get away from the, bullet hell of fire and magic and dark casts that both of them were doing. It's kind of a return to form of, I don't know, Dark Lurker is weird. His design is strange. It's like he came from Diablo 3 and invaded the world of Dark Souls. Because it's just an angel with 4 arms. And I have a theory about 4-armed beings in Dark Souls 2 and Elden Ring being connected. But that's for another time. But yeah, Dark Lurker requires skill. If you're, well... That's what I'll say. It requires skill, to a degree, and more so than most bosses in this game. I usually leave him up till the end, because he is so hard. Hard to get to, and hard to beat, once you do get to him. Because he doesn't give you enough time to heal, most of the time, especially in his second phase, where he splits into 2. It's rough. It is rough, but oh so satisfying to beat. Next is Nashandra, and she also is one of my second favies. Actually, maybe favies. Because I really like her design. It's very cool. And it is satisfying to fight a, I guess, collective of Manus and Gravelord Nito-ishness as the final boss, instead of the usual fight the Hollowed King thing, which, by the time Dark Souls 2 came out, for me, was a little bit overdone already, since you can already defeat Vendrick as well. I did expect Vendrick to be the last boss, so I like the juxtaposition, the change, the it's kind of a twist of the plot to have the queen be like Manus reborn. Manus was always the evil entity at the heart of Dark Souls, and his effect can be felt throughout the entire series. So I think it's fitting for a Manus character to be the end boss. Of course, Aldia is the true end boss in Scholar of the First Sin, but nevertheless, I do love Nashandra. It's an interesting gimmick that you have to go around attacking the curses. I mean, you don't have to, but if they get close to you, you must. And if they're closer to her, and you have to get to her to melee her, you have to get rid of them. It's nice because she doesn't have that many abilities. She has an AoE curse move, she has an AoE blast move, she has lasers, she has the 3, swipe scythe attack, and then an overhead scythe attack, and a double scythe attack, and that is it. That is all she has. At least as far as I know. She's very easy, for an end boss especially. But Dark Souls games, From Software games, are known to have easy end bosses that are more there for the lore's sake than for the gameplay. And I enjoy the gameplay. She just has very low health. So, that goes for a lot of these. Just not enough health to make the boss fight more engaging. Like, by the time you are engaged, she's already dead. But it can be difficult in New Game Plus, the more damage she does. So, there is that. Also, getting cursed is not so much of an issue in Dark Souls 2, because you don't immediately die. You just get hollowed slightly. Get your max health taken down a bit. Which, compared to creatures like Malekith in Elden Ring, is not so bad. Not so bad. Ugh. So yeah, even if she's easy, I still enjoy her a lot. No comment on that. Anyway, Throne Defender, Throne Watcher. This is an interesting double boss fight, which is not reused from other characters. Very odd. But I enjoy it because they can actually get each other up, which is annoying, but it creates that tension of like a ticking time bomb. If they get each other up, then you have to kill them both again. And that sucks. So, you are taught to focus one down over the other, or at least do damage to both, and then focus on one, so that you have an easier time of killing the other. And that, that little bit of strategy helps liven up things. They also have vastly different playstyles. The armored one, I think it's the Throne Defender, has slow-moving attacks, much like the Cyan Knights. And the Throne Watcher is fast, like the Mira Knights, from the land of Mira, with a shield. They both have shields, though. In the second phase, they ditch their shields and go all in on electrical attacks, and are not are actually resistant to electrical attacks. So, very difficult at first glance, but it is very satisfying to learn the puzzle of getting away from the one's attack and hitting the other while they're open. It's fun, and they do allow you to do that. Like, if you focus down one and kite them well enough, the other one will just hang back for a while before coming to get involved, so that's nice. An enjoyable fight all round. This is actually a pretty well-balanced list. This is probably the most balanced so far. Ava the King's Pet. So, does this include both DLC kitty fights? Because if it does, the double kitty fight at the end of the Snow DLC is just bad. Adam Vergreist, greetings and salutations, friend.
Oh, hi.
Thank you for coming this evening. We are just about to finish the Dark Souls 2 tier list, but I thank you for tuning in tonight. Good to see you again, friend. Glad to be back. Glad to have you back. Alright, continuing with... Yeah, I just don't like Ava the King's Pet at all. They break your weapons and armor. In a like melee range, they will just break your armor passively, and hitting them breaks your weapon. So you have to repair a lot in those boss fights. They also do crystal magic attacks, throw those at you, and they get maddened at the halfway point of their health bars, and that makes it tough. They have a spin to win attack, they have a leaping attack, which is very hard to gauge when it begins, and if you are underneath them or behind them, they can very easily hit you with their little paws. Not fun at any time. I guess it's satisfying to kill them, but I hate the durability problem. It's an issue, and you have to get through the blasted valley of freaking horses, unicorns, dark unicorns, in order to retry this fight. There is no checkpoint or a bonfire. You have to run through the entire snow land, Snow Valley, to get to it, and that is the worst. Again, like the Executioner Chariot, you have to get through a horrible valley of terrible dark damage dealing enemies to get back to it. It's a gauntlet. Gauntlets should have died after Demon Souls, but they didn't. They continued through until Dark Souls 3, and at least that I enjoy about Dark Souls 3. No gauntlets, really. To a degree. There are shortcuts, at least. Alright, next is Afflicted Grave Robber, Ancient Soldier, Varg, Serra, the Old Explorer. I think the Afflicted Grave Robber had a name as well, but this is a weird one. It's kind of bad. It's kind of fun to figure out how to kill them all, but it's nowhere near as balanced as Throne Defender and Throne Watcher, because they're just NPC AI. So they just focus you down aggressively, and they don't really have that many openings. Unless they attack you and miss. And funny thing is, they totally buffed the, what's it called? Havel set and move set. You can't stagger him as easily as in previous and later games. And he's fast now. You can't just run up and backstab him. So you have to be very careful and very strategic with this Havel Knight. There's also the ranged woman, who has a rapier. Then there's Alva, basically, who has, I think, bleed damage. So, yeah, you just run around a lot. This vast, open plain that also has a pit full of water that slows you down with poisonous enemies in it. Yeah, it's not fun. It's tedious. It's kind of fun. That's why I put it in kinda bad. But it's in the bad category, for sure. But it's not just bad. Next is Burnt Ivory King. I had a lot of trouble with this every time that I fought it, but every single time I learned to appreciate the arena, the spectacle of it all. You're coming with your army of knights against their army of knights, Frost Knights against Fire Knights, and then once that battle is completed, then the Burnt Ivory King comes out of the portal from deep underground in the bed of chaos area, like Sauron out of the abyss, and it's epic. And he gave me the most difficulty of any boss in this game. He even gave me the same palpitations that enemies like Malekith and Melania give you. Like, it's a pretty fast fight for what you can do movement-wise in Dark Souls 2. And the armor set that you can get, and the weapons, is pretty legitimate. This is my favorite DLC boss of the game, for sure. Better than Chandra, and Freya, and Skeleton Lords. I don't know if I like him more than Looking Glass Knight, though. I just like the design of Looking Glass Knight more. The Burnt Ivory King is quite terrifying. Alright, next is Alana, the, what's it called? The Disgusting Queen? I can't remember. She's fine. She's kinda good. But it's definitely another gimmick fight where you're fighting it out. She has melee attacks. She has some magic. She does poison. But then she can summon whatever enemy she wants. Even Velstadt. Skeletons, Velstadt. I think there's one more enemy that she can summon. Any one of those three she can summon. And that is super annoying. So there's not much to Alana. It's just the ads that you have to actually watch out for. So, not my favorite. She's kind of just a nerfed Nishandra, in my opinion. Although she probably has more health. Most likely. Do I like her more than Royal Rat Authority? No. I'll put her there. Put her there! Old chum. Next is Sin, the Slumbering Dragon. I like Sin. He's fun. He breaks your armor and weapons all too quickly, and he poisons you as well. But he's a dragon fight, and I like dragon fights. Let's see. Better than Mytha, yes. Better than Velstadt? Yes. He also does not have that big of a health pool. It seems like he does, because he has crazy defenses. He's mostly petrified, so you have to find his weak spots, which are not too easy to find. I think his head is a weak spot, and behind his legs, like the back sides of his legs, those are the weak spots, which is very odd. So, I like it. It's more unique of a dragon fight, and a pretty good one. He does fly around a bunch, but the arena is not too large, and he dies pretty quickly if you are focused on doing damage, and have summons as well. But fun either way. I also love how green this DLC is. But I would definitely take Lost Sinner over Sin any day of the week. Very cool boss design, though, for a dragon. Oh, Fume Knight. Definitely one of my favies. Fume Knight goes up here. Classic. Iconic. Best greatsword in Dark Souls 2, in my opinion. The Black Knight greatsword is still pretty good. But the Fume Knight greatsword is epic and fashionable. Interesting shape. And the Fume Knight uses it quite well. It's a very balanced fight in your favor, because he cannot do anything faster than you can get back your stamina, potentially. I mean, if you're constantly running out of stamina, even then, you will eventually get a chance to roll in time. Just spam the roll button. So it feels more like a dance, like it's timed properly, so that you can get hits in and roll in time with his attacks. It's really fun. To learn the fight is really fun, and then once you learn the fight, though, it becomes exceedingly easy, which is somewhat disappointing, because the first few times you face him, it's like, oh my gosh, this guy is larger than life. He can kill me in 3 hits, or 2 hits. But if you learn the rolls, it's easy. I guess that's true of most bosses, but especially true of the Fume Knight. He is harder than the Looking Glass Knight, for sure. Easier than the Burnt Ivory King. You don't have to get through a whole gauntlet to get to him, and that's nice. So, as opposed to the Skeleton Lords and Burnt Ivory King, like, I like duels with large enemies. I like... It depends. I like duels, I like monsters, and I like army fights, depending on how they're done. Like, I like the 3 Skeleton Lords because it's a massive army of skeletons and 3 necromancers, as opposed to just 5 guys, burgers and fries, with Prowling Magus and the Congregation. It's fun. I don't know. This is a weird tier list. The more I look at it, like, are there some inconsistencies? Maybe, but this is just my biased opinion. Lud and Zalin, the king's pets. Wait a minute. Those are the tigers. There they are. Okay, I do like the Ava the king's pet better than the Executioner Chariot, but Lud and Zalin. If you took away their durability drain and the double boss fight and the snow issue, this would be fine. Actually, I mean, double boss fights are fine. Yeah, take away the gauntlet and the durability, and this would be okay. This would be just kind of good, maybe. But as it is, it's the worst fight in the game for me. And at long last, and last but not least, sitting all alone, is Sir Alon. Everybody hand it to Sir Alon. He is much harder than the Fume Knight because he does not care about your feelings or timing. He is fast, and he is ruthless. But I experienced the same thing with him as I did Fume Knight. If you get the rolls down, it's easy enough to hit him back. He just has some ridiculous, like, almost one-shot, damaging hits and grabs. So, and you have to go through a gauntlet to get to him, but the fight itself is so fun that it doesn't matter too much. I just hate the lead up to him. But he is one of my favorites. If we separate the gauntlet from him, heck, even if we don't, you can run there fast enough to make it worth getting to, I guess. That's a big problem, though, I must say. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of Charles' tier list. We did it again, friends! We did it! Huzzah! So to recap, my favorite boss is Looking Glass Knight, second fave is Burnt Ivory King, third, Sir Alon, fourth, Fume Knight, fifth, Skeleton Lords, sixth, Freya, seventh, Nashandra. Second favies, Dark Lurker, Boss Sinner, Sin, Pursuer, Velstadt, Mitha, Old Iron King, Belfry Gargoyles, Guardian Dragon, Throne Defender, Throne Watcher. Those should be way, way further ahead. Yes. Yes, I like them better than Velstadt. Velstadt is very simple. Then, kinda good, Vendrick, Royal Rat Authority, Old Dragon Slayer, Lana, Ruin Sentinels, Flexile Sentry, Last Giant, Giant Lord, Najka, and the Rotten. Kinda bad, Afflicted Grave Robber and those three NPCs, Ancient Dragon, Royal Rat, Vanguard, Prowling Magus, 2 times Dragon Rider, Covetous Demon, Demon of Song, Aldia, Smelter Demon, and then just bad, Abba the King's Pet, Executioner's Chariot, and Lud and Zolin the King's Pets. The King's Pets are so bad, they're in just bad twice. No mercy for the King's Pets. Alright, that is the tier list, and that concludes the stream and the video for today. Also, Don Quixote redeemed official stretch. We'll get right to that, my friend. Thank you so much, Don Quixote, for tuning in. Huzzah! But yes, to those on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. God bless you. Fare thee well. And I'll see you in the next one. The good Lord loves you, and so do I. Goodbye. Goodbye. Thank you. Goodbye. Alright, Don Quixote, the official stretch is nigh. Let's go! Thank you for that. Not sure if it's a good time to stretch right at the end of a stream, but I'm doing it. Doing it for you! It is a heavy chair. Alright, here we go. Don't think you can see me very well. Also, the Majula music works pretty well, doesn't it? Background. Alright. Here we go. The official stretch. Long stream deserves a good stretch. Yes, indeed. First stream back from my 1 week, break. Glad to be back, though. Hopefully I won't have to, take another one of those. Alright. Stretch the leg. 5 seconds each. Stretch the other leg. Now you stretch again. Hopefully this is good for both calves and the back leg. Hamstrings. Yes. I hope you're doing this with me, friends. This is just as much for you as it is for me. Touch the ground. Touch your nose. Touch the sky. On your tippy toes. Now, as your hands are above your head, stretch to the right. No, left. Stretch to the right. Either way, stretch both ways. And swivel. Crack of the back. Crack of the neck. Crack of the hands. Now stretch the legs, do the splits, if you can. Praise the sun. And you're done, basically. Shake it out, shake it out. Okay. And then put the chair back. And there you have it, friends. The official stretch. Huzzah.